Most religions celebrate their dead and revere their saints and ancestors. In Poland, it's an important and beautiful day for reflection and celebration of life. What is the meaning of the Feast of the Dead, and what can we still learn in our secular age? But it's not just about ghouls and pumpkins and trick-or-treating. Join me, Jan Darasz, for How We Got Here.
Traditionally observed in the fall, Dziady-translated as Forefathers Eve, is time when families in Poland honor their deceased relatives through rituals and gatherings. However, in recent decades, the influence of Halloween has crept into Polish culture, creating a fascinating interplay between these two celebrations. Dziady dates back to pre-Christian Slavic traditions. It typically involved setting a feast for the souls of the departed, with offerings placed on the altars or at the family graves. It was believed that during this time, the boundary between the living and the dead became thin, allowing spirits to visit their loved ones. As globalization and Western cultural influence grew in the late 20th century, Halloween began to gain traction in Poland. Initially introduced through American movies and media, Halloween playful and commercial aspects appealed to younger generations. The rise of Halloween has sparked debate in Poland about cultural identity and the preservation of heritage. Many Polish families now find themselves blending elements of both celebrations. While some honor the traditional Dziady with family gatherings and visit to graves, others partake in Halloween festivities, particularly in urban areas where commercial influences are strong. As Halloween becomes more popular, there is a growing movement to revive and preserve the unique customs of Dziady. Cultural organizations and educators emphasize the importance of preserving these traditions, highlighting their historical significance and the value of remembrance in fostering family ties.
Our guest today is Aleksandra Brodowska from the National Institute of Cultural Heritage based here in Warsaw. Welcome to the programme.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Great to have you. This idea of Halloween and then All Saints and All Souls, we tend to focus, depending on what your philosophical or religious perspective is, on one of the two, one of the three. Halloween, monsters and ghouls, All Saints and All Souls, the kind of religious aspects. Can you give us an outline of why these things, these 3 days, were so together at one time, and how did they evolve? What was this feast about?
I think we have to start with recognizing the importance of time and the cycle of nature, because this time right now is the moment when summer ends, when the nature calms down, the fall starts, and back centuries ago, people recognized that this is a moment something is changing. And the common roots of all the celebrations across the world, which is Halloween, Dziady in Poland, or Dia de los Muertos in Mexico, they are all rooted in the notion that right now the time of darkness prevails over the time of light, and something is changing in the perception how people relate to nature surrounding them. So the common root of all those traditions is the belief that the invisible world, which all the ancient societies believed existed, sort of connects with the world of the living. And the way how we celebrate and we relate with the spirits of our ancestors will sort of decide the fortune and the success of the year that is supposed to come. So here in the area of the Slavic culture, we have a slightly different understanding of this custom, which Dziady basically means that Dziady and Halloween are both celebrated on the 31st of October, and this is the
Forefathers Eve.
Exactly. The root of the Halloween is basically the eve of the Hallows Day, which is the All Saints Day, as it evolved with the shortened pronunciation. So it was a celebration to interact with the souls of the ancestors, to pay respect, but also to acknowledge as a group that this sacred but also mysterious world of souls, which are, some of them are doomed, some of them are already saved, that it exists, and also that they interact with the world of the living.
That's on one particular day, yes?
Yeah, the belief is that it's this time of the year. It's probably the fact that it's in the middle, like between summer and winter, and it's basically really like noticeable that the conditions in nature really change, and it's all cyclical.
And the church obviously succeeded in adopting this.
Yes, of course. It's like the idea was introduced already in the Middle Ages, and it started to gain popularity across 9th to 11th century, and it merged with the existing customs. It's similar history with the Christmas Eve. Like, it's built on the indigenous traditions, which are also reflected in the different customs as we celebrate those days today.
Are there any specific Polish practices or traditions which are connected with these three days?
I would start with a rich symbolism of this celebration. First of all, candles, as we know of today, they symbolize the fire, which was both representing the hospitality of people living and welcoming the souls so they could warm up with the fire, but at the same time it stands for hope and for life. Because even when we pray for the souls using the Christian wording of prayers, we say that we wish for the eternal light to accompany the soul. So this is what is reflected in the symbolism of candles, of light, of fire. In previous centuries, it was fire either next to the home, next to the field, in various places. Now we use it in this symbolic way, putting candles on graves. Another symbolic and very important aspect of this celebration is it's been lost currently. There were special meals prepared for this day. They sort of actually remind the feast of Christmas Eve. There was kutia, which is known for certain regions of Poland. There were also dumplings, bread, and they were made to, first of all, welcome the souls, but at the same time to feed them, and also to celebrate the community of the living. So. And maybe also third symbol, which is also a little bit lost, is using, we currently use flowers, but it was mostly the green leaves, which also represent lives and continuity. Because the main philosophy of this celebration is that by remembering the ancestors, we sort of ensure the continuity. So it's basically about heritage and honoring the past, but also about us stressing out the common roots we have.
So where did this notion of monsters and ghouls and zombies and these rather horrific figures, where did that come from? Did that enter at the same stage? Did they come together with the souls and battle?
Not all souls were saved, not all souls are good. So there is also there is a belief that right now at this time of the year, this veil separating the real world and the mysterious world of afterlife is very thin. So anything that once can come across from the world of the dead. So this is where the idea of damned souls, of the devil comes from, and that's why actually in many cultures in this time there are special customs to not to let those souls come to you and actually scare you. So for example, some cultures were preparing masks so the damned souls wouldn't recognize you. Some other cultures were putting different kinds of things to defer them. One of most widespread examples in Poland is putting salt on either on the ground or in front of houses. So the damned souls or the evil souls, they wouldn't haunt your home and your family.
In this, we are living in an increasingly secular age where these traditions seem to be superstitions rather than living beliefs. Has this tradition gone in Poland? You mentioned this idea of putting salt as a barrier, or is it other places in Poland where it's still living?
I would say that the traditions related to the All Saints' Day and this time of the year, they have transformed. And one of the most recent traditions that is really cultivated in Warsaw is the Powązki collection. It's the fundraising event, which is something more than just an annual fundraising campaign.
Yes, the Powązki, just a huge cemetery.
Yeah, it's one of the oldest,
yes,
and I think one of the most revered cemeteries in Poland. And the collection was started in 1975, so we are close to the 50th anniversary of that annual event taking place, and it reflects the Polish very deeply and culturally rooted care for the memory of our ancestors. Because there is also this tradition, it's now forgotten, but it's reflected in a very different form. The Baroque paintings, which were placed on the coffin and reflected the individuality of the person,
yes,
despite the universal nature of death. So right now, if you go to a cemetery, you very often see a portrait or a picture or a photo of a person, which is very unique for Polish tradition, but also the scale that everyone basically goes to visit their ancestors. It's very unique, but at the same time, it also continues this tradition. So maybe the customs, which are now perceived as superstitious, they are left behind, but the general idea that we cherish the memory of our ancestors is still very present in Polish society.
We talked a short while earlier before we came on air about the whether we should preserve these customs, whether customs die, whether the customs transform or develop. Is this something that's happening in Poland? For example, the church is very critical of this Halloween thing with the devils and the zombies and the ghouls, and we should really see these 3 days as one philosophic whole, shouldn't we?
I think that the main critique of Halloween comes from the commercialized way of celebrating this time of the year, because it's not really, I think, a critique of either carving the pumpkins or just thinking if it's a ghost or dressing up, because it all has similar roots. It's rooted in the Irish tradition of Samhain, and this celebration is very similar to the celebration of Dziady. It's all reflecting the need to think about the afterlife, to interact with the souls of the dead. So I think right now the critique calls for actually more profound understanding of this tradition rather than buying another costume or another decoration. I've read some statistics that actually Halloween in the American market is the second most revenue generating holiday after Christmas. So it really says a lot about the level of actually...
About the money.
Exactly, rather than a spiritual
Yes.
moment of reflection, because it's a kind of holiday that should be really profound in a way of us thinking about those existential topics.
Yes, so it's a universal truth. We're all going to go into the afterlife at one point, aren't we?
Exactly, and it's a question: how do we imagine it? Do we imagine it at all, or do we stay at the level of picturing this as a small monster jumping out of a
Yes.
pumpkin? Because we can trivialize all of those topics, but they will still remain universal. And it's really interesting that we sort of keep culturally death as a taboo topic right now, even though we have Halloween as a very widespread
Yes.
celebration.
No, it's part of life. Thank you very much, Alexandra Brodowska, for coming into the programme.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you. So that's all we have time for today. Stay tuned for TVP World and join us next time for How We Got Here.